Hello friends, Tanya here with a video featuring some Spellbinders new products. I am going to feature a few of the products from the stained glass bouquet. We're going to start with the Wistful Windows Die Set. This is a 5x7 stamps, or excuse me, not stamp set, die set. And it creates these beautiful intricate dies in several layers. You get the detail with a separate outline die. So this particular die cut that I'm gluing down to a piece of cardstock was actually 3 dies. So the inner part was one, the part that cuts out the center was 1 die. The part that cuts the details was 1 die. And the part that cuts the outer edge of it was a separate die. So you have lots of different possibilities with these die sets. And if you love 5x7 cards as much as I do, you are going to love this series of die sets. Now this time I am going to create, or for this card, I'm going to create a real stained glass effect. It does take a little bit of time, and I did do this particular section in the actual real time. Otherwise I sped it way up. I think it took me 17 minutes to die cut and squeeze in the Nuvo crystal drops. Some of these are crystals, some of these are dream drops, some of these are jewel drops. I just dug through my stash and found a bunch of colors that I really enjoyed. I was aiming for some delicate spring colors, and this frame piece here looked like a nest to me. So I went with some brown for the actual nest part, and then some bottle green, I believe this is, for the leaves. And I'm just going through and adding these crystal drops all over on all of the leaves. I just chose one color for each of these things. This is, now I pulled these out and checked out what they were. The brown is Saddlebag vintage drops. The green is the bottle green crystal drops. Now I am using the Calming Aqua crystal drops. And then the next color I'm using is the Lemon Twist Dream Drops. These have a lovely pearlescent quality to them. I love that. And then the pink I'm going to be using is called, let me find the name. Oh gosh, where is the name? There it is, Honeysuckle, and that one's a jewel drop. That means it's, the jewel drops are a translucent drop, and so they are a little bit see-through. So you wouldn't want to use this on a dark color unless you wanted the dark color to show through. And the green has a pearly quality to it, also a creamy pearly quality, not like the iridescent pearly quality that the dream drops have. And the vintage drops, they dry kind of matte, so they don't have that super shiny finish. The Nuvo drops, there's tons of different kinds. So now that I've gotten all of those stained glass pieces filled in, and I set that aside to dry, I think I only let it dry for a half hour or an hour or so. I cut out that same detailed die out of a shimmery white cardstock, and I put some Bearly Arts precision glue on the back of it, and I'm carefully gluing it on top. If you noticed, I wasn't all that careful about my placement of the jewel drops when I was, or the crystal drops, while I was filling those in. I didn't get them into the next section, and I tried to keep them inside the bounds, but I didn't care if they got on the frame because I planned to put them under, or I planned to put the shimmery white frame on top. Now this is another couple of layers from this die set, and it's got a kind of a Art Deco feel to it. It would look good in so many colors. The leading in stained glass is, I think it's like a dark silvery color normally, and you can stain it to different colors. But we're gonna go with white. I know that's not very realistic for stained glass, but that's what we're going for. But this particular design is pretty delicate on how that centerpiece is connected, and I want that centerpiece still connected so I can glue this other panel to it. So what I did was carefully got one edge up, and I took my die release tool and I'm using the pokey part on its side to slide underneath and carefully lift all of the die out, or all of the paper out of the die. Otherwise, those little tiny connections get broken off. Then I took this stained glass piece and I trimmed with a scissor around. I should have made taken a smaller piece of paper to glue that to begin with, but that's what my plan changed as the card progressed. I have a piece of coaster blank on the back of this cardstock, or sorry, on the back of this panel. Just cut it a little smaller than that inner panel, and I'm going to glue this to a 5x7 card base in white. I believe it's 110-pound Nina Solar white. And I had also put coaster blanks behind the detailed stained glass piece. And I'm gluing that to the center here. And I do put a heavy block on that just to help that adhere nice and flat. So I had also found a Happy Mother's Day sentiment and heat embossed it in gold embossing powder on some vellum. And I'm using some more of this Barely Art Precision glue to put glue just behind the letters. This glue is amazing. Even if you get a little bit of glue that isn't directly behind some of the heat embossing, it does not show. I am so impressed with this glue. And you can get that in the Spellbinders store also. Get your hands on some of it. I promise you won't regret it. Also putting a heavy block on there just to add some weight so that that vellum will stick. I do go back and put a little bit more glue behind those tails that are actually over the jewel drops and such. Now I'm using some of the crystal mixes from Spellbinders. These are also new. I believe I am using the gold mix here. I'm just adding a few sparkles because enough is never enough. I had to add a little more sparkle. And you could make this for any occasion. I just happen to need some Mother's Day cards. It is Mother's Day weekend. This was created in the week leading up to Mother's Day, and I had just brought all of my Mother's Day cards to work, and they promptly disappeared, as they should. Just adding a little bit of glue here to finish this particular card up. I did dig through my stash and put a sweet Mother's Day sentiment quote on the inside of this card, and look at that. I love the way that stained glass appearance came out. I think I'll do this again. The next card I'm going to make is going to be using the Deco Blooms, also from the Stained Glass Bouquet series by Becca that came out this month. And this time we're going to Glimmer Hot Foil with these dies. If you've never done this and you have the Glimmer Hot Foil system, you should give it a try. It really brings a whole new element to your dies and a whole new way to use your dies. It is a subtler look than what you get with the Glimmer Hot Foils because the cut lines are much thinner than the Glimmer Hot Foil plates create. And they are thinner in thickness. So when you do the Glimmer Hot Foiling, you are going to need to use some shims to make up for that extra thickness that the Glimmer Hot Foil plates have. Here I'm taking all of the dies from this set and I am going to tape them together carefully so they're spaced nicely. Going to place those cut side up on my platform now that they're all taped together. And this is again a 5x7 set. So this does take up the entire length of your hot platform. I'm putting the pewter foil good side down, so it's touching, the good side's touching the dies. And I'm using watercolor paper on this one because I want to use make a watercolor background with this. And then I put the shims for it, the plates for it on, and this is what it looks like when it comes out. Next, I pull out my Magello Mission Gold watercolors, and I'm going to use just two colors, a bright cobalty blue and a very bright green, bright appley green. And I'm going to lay this color from corner to corner. I had laid down a layer of water first because I wanted this to mix and blend easily with itself and create a nice organic looking watercolor background. I'm just using those two colors to create a blue to an aqua to a green. I am using my heat tool to set this. You could let it air dry. I'm not that patient. And I wanted to sop up the extra color on the edges, and I wanted this to dry more quickly because most of the color was leaving the center of the cardstock. If I had taped this to a hard board, I could have avoided that and just let it air dry without worry of all of the color shifting to the edges. Now we're going to take all of these dies, and you're thinking, man, you're going to ruin all of that Glimmer hot foiling you did, but I won't, I promise. I took the most outer frame and the smallest rectangle frame and the oval and die cut those sections out. And next I'm going to take and die cut the other rectangle, the middle-sized rectangle, and you have to be a little careful with your placement. I didn't actually lose any of my Glimmer hot foiling with the tape, but it can happen. It can pull or dull your Glimmer hot foiling, so just try to be kind of careful about that. And then we're going to have all of these layers to put on our card. I think this is sometimes called a triple stamping technique, but this is slightly different. So I am using the outer frame die to create a panel of white cardstock to just glue all of this to before we attach it to a card front. This is my base. This is so I don't mess things up. So I took the outer or the biggest frame and laid that down as a way to center the next layer down. And I glued that flush with the cardstock. And the outermost frame, I put some coaster blank on the back of, and I'm going to glue that up, lining it up with the edges of that background panel, which is cut exactly the same size. And don't worry if you get it off just a smidgen. You can see a little bit of the white background here. I'm trying to fix that, thinking I had that lined up the wrong way, but I didn't. And I also was checking to see if I liked the visual effect by alternating them from the original position. As you can see, we've got blue in one corner and green in the other, but I decided I was going to stick with the original way I painted it. And we'll just glue that down. And then we're going to alternate the heights of these layers, up to down, mountain to valley, through to the middle of the card. Now this next layer is also elevated, and we're not going to use the watercolored oval. We're going to use a white piece that we will glue in there. But first I'm going to heat emboss a Mother's Day sentiment on it and then die cut it with the same oval. I used some Pewter embossing powder on that, and I used a Happy Mother's Day sentiment from my stash. I don't even know if that stamp is still available. And you could use any sentiment. I believe that, let me measure that opening. It is about 3 1/8 inches long by 1 1/4 inches, almost 1 1/4 inches wide. So you could put a whole lot of different sentiments in there. I thought about adding some flowers, especially those beautiful flowers from Susan's garden. But I think I'm going to have to mail this, so that didn't sound like a good idea. This is the finished card. I will find a great sentiment or poem or phrase for the inside and mail that out this weekend. It's going to be gone. And these are both of the cards. They are very different cards. I love them both. Let me know which one you liked the most in the comments below. I love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out, and I appreciate knowing that you like my videos. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please take a moment to hit subscribe. And if you want to make sure you see all of the videos I make in the future, hit that bell icon so you get notified for every video I publish. If you are interested in any of the product that I have used today, please check the description box below. That'll have a list with links to the products that I've used that I can find that are still current. And come back again soon. I've got a couple more videos that you might enjoy up above here, and you can click on those to see those for yourself. Until next time, bye-bye.